Hi, my name is Alex Dolphin and welcome back to another episode of Ex Ante. Today we're going to discuss the case of J. McIntyre Machinery versus Nicastro. This case was heard in the Supreme Court of the United States in the year 2011. Let's go ahead and jump into the facts of the case. So Nicastro was a worker in New Jersey. He was injured using a metal shearing machine. This metal shearing machine was manufactured by J. McIntyre Machinery. Nicastro filed a suit in New Jersey State Court against McIntyre Machinery saying, hey, you sold a defective product and you're responsible for my injuries. The issue for Nicastro and the issue for the court is that J. McIntyre Machinery is actually a foreign corporation. They manufacture their machines in the United Kingdom. And then they sell these machines to the United States of America. So the court has the question of, are we going to submit this foreign corporation to personal jurisdiction in the state of New Jersey? The state Supreme Court says, in New Jersey says, yeah, we are. We're going to hold this British manufacturer accountable. He's going to have to come here. He's going to have to defend himself in a New Jersey state court. And the reason we have personal jurisdiction over this foreign corporation is because they put their products into the stream of commerce. And because they put their products into the stream of commerce, it should have been foreseeable that a defective product would hurt someone in the state of New Jersey. So they say it's foreseeable. The keywords from the New Jersey State Supreme Court's opinion are foreseeability and the stream of commerce. Now, J. McIntyre doesn't love this, right? They don't want to have to submit themselves to litigation in all states around the United States of America. They feel like, well, we're a British company. Why should we have to come to the United States to defend our product? So they appeal this to the United States Supreme Court. And the United States Supreme Court, there is... Basically, it's a 6-3 decision. 4 justices write for the plurality of the court, which would be the majority in this instance, 4 justices, and Justice Kennedy delivers that opinion. Justice Kennedy essentially says, this has been a murky territory. Personal jurisdiction, it hasn't been all that clear, and especially since the 80s and the Asahi case, where we talked about foreign corporations. It's just the waters have been muddied, and we just need to clear this up. And he says, we're just going to clear this up by telling you that this really is a sovereign by sovereign issue. And if you are going to if you're going to have to submit to the power of a sovereign, then it's necessary that you purposefully avail yourself of that sovereign. So he says the key is a purposeful availment by a corporation of a sovereign. What does that mean? Well, that means that you purposefully sold your products and you purposefully sold them into that state, that forum, right? So what would be necessary for J. McIntyre to have to submit to personal jurisdiction in New Jersey? Now, it would be necessary for them to actually have to target people in New Jersey specifically. Now, the court says, well, they didn't really do that. They did target the United States of America broadly. They didn't target New Jersey specifically. They worked with a distributor to, sell their products throughout the country, but it wasn't really clear to the court that J. McIntyre was targeting New Jersey. And the other piece of evidence that weighs in McIntyre's favor is that, well, there was really only one machine that was sold in the state of New Jersey, and it's the one that this guy was injured by. So it's not like they were selling, thousands of machines into the state of New Jersey. They really just sold one machine there. And so the court here says, you know what, we know personal jurisdiction's been muddy. We're just going to lay down a clear line. It's purposeful availment. There's not purposeful availment in this instance, so McIntyre's off the hook in the state court. An interesting thing that Justice Kennedy talks about in his opinion is that, Congress could basically enact a statute, a long-arm statute that says if foreign corporations do business generally with the United States, like McIntyre was doing in this instance, they were doing business generally with the United States, but they weren't targeting specifically New Jersey, that then you could exercise jurisdiction over them under a long-arm federal statute. So he says that's a possibility. Unfortunately for Nicastro, Congress hasn't enacted that statute, so he really has no remedy because the state court does not have jurisdiction. So if Nicastro wants remedy under the majority's opinion, he has to go to England and sue McIntyre in England. So you can see why Dissent doesn't like that, and we'll talk about the dissent later. It's worth talking about the concurrence, where Justice Breyer and Justice Alito talk a little bit about how it's unnecessary that we put down this bright line rule here about purposeful availment. Personal jurisdiction is a muddy theory, and the reason why it's so unclear is because the court needs to be pragmatic. They need to look at each fact scenario case by case and say, well, it's just to subject them to personal jurisdiction here, or well, it's not just to subject them to personal jurisdiction there. Ultimately, in the concurrence, the two justices say, we agree that McIntyre shouldn't be subject to New Jersey's state court jurisdiction. We just don't agree with your reasoning. So that's why we're going to write our concurrence. Finally, there's a dissent. This dissent is written by Justice Ginsburg and Sotomayor and Kagan. Essentially, they say there should be personal jurisdiction here in the New Jersey state court system. And the reason why is because it's pretty obvious that McIntyre was targeting the United States of America as customers. And because New Jersey is a state, it's only fair that Nicastro be able to recover in a state court system, because if he's not able to recover in a state court system, then he has to go to England. And it's not fair for this plaintiff, Nicastro, to have to fly across to England, hire an English lawyer, all the costs that's going to be associated with that, just because McIntyre basically skirted personal jurisdiction by working with a distributor in the United States of America. I mean, they say it's clear that, these people purposefully availed themselves of the United States of America. And because they did, the only way to hold them to account is to have a court exercise jurisdiction over them. And so it seems pragmatic. It seems like the thing that ought to happen is that jurisdiction should be placed over this foreign corporation. So that's the case. I think it's interesting because you do see a difference in approaches in the justices. You have one that just wants to put a clear rule out, and I see the reason for that. Why would you want to put a clear rule out in personal jurisdiction? Well, it's been so confusing to everyone for so long. You've seen the case law evolve as you read the cases about personal jurisdiction, and it quickly becomes clear that the doctrine is unclear, right? And it's like, well, let's just clear these things up. Let's make it so there can be some predictability in the courts, and so plaintiffs and defendants can know what they're dealing with. Hopefully they can settle a lot and just keep these disputes out of courts. And then you have the other side of things where you see, the concurrence and even the dissent, in a sense, are both saying, let's be pragmatic about this. So we don't have to put this big time rule forward, because, there might be cases where it's unintuitive, where this rule could lead us to unintuitive results. And a key thing to glean from the opinion is, Justice Breyer talks about that. Like, what about the internet seller? What about the person who sells their products through Amazon, and then Amazon sells them all around the country? Well, it's not. Is it super clear that the person, say the manufacturer their candle or whatever in Arizona, and then they sell that through Amazon. It goes all around the country. Someone gets injured in Delaware. Well, if that person gets injured in Delaware, did the person in Arizona really purposefully avail themselves of Delaware, or did Amazon purposefully avail themselves of Delaware? Where do you draw the line, right? How do you determine what's purposeful? It's better if we just say, hey, you know what? We don't need this bright line rule. Let's just look at each case by case and let the judges, evaluate the cases. Now, the problem with that is that it's going to be more and more difficult for lawyers to predict what's going to happen in the courts. And if that's the case, there will be less settlement, there will be more judicial disputes, and it will be more of a drain on judicial resources. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.